So
Yes.
I just want to start at the top. Who is Karl Marx and what is he responsible for?
Okay. So Karl Marx was a German, actually, he was a German Jewish. I only say that because he was very critical of Judaism, even though he was himself Jewish. And he wrote in the aftermath of the revolutions that swept Europe in 1848, where they were overthrowing monarchies and they were anarchists. And he and Friedrich Engels, his partner, wrote this classic work, Das Kapital. And they wrote others as well, but that was very influential because he introduced some things that were, um, put it this way, there was a German tradition of Hegel and other philosophers that I guess you would call it communitarian. And it goes all the way back to antiquity. The question had been framed before Marx in this sense that communitarianism, that is, not having your own property, not being rewarded based on your excellence or your productivity, summed up best by a quality of result rather than a quality of opportunity, was not the main. That was not seen as creating Western civilization. There were people in the past, the Pythagoreans, Greek colonial practices, classical, they didn't really work. But he came along, and that had been the traditional view. And he came along and said and he was a product of the Industrial Revolution. So people were going in these cities, they were the original cramped, dirty conditions. There was a lot of oppression. There was no rules about 40-hour work, any of that.
Okay.
And he called them the proletariat, and he said that they need to seize the means of production. That's the first thing he said. In other words, that there should be no private ownership
Right.
of production. That meant factories, farms, etc.
Right.
And then he said each person according not to his production, but according to his need. In other words, and then there was that anecdote. I don't know if it's true or not, that when he had his salons and he brought intellectuals in that agreed with him, he would have a little tray. Everybody would put money in, and then people could take out what they needed as they left. And of course, it didn't work because people would take more than they needed.
Every fall, there's that shift in the air, right? Mornings get a little cooler, the light changes, and suddenly you're reaching for layers that make you feel grounded, comfortable, pulled together. And those are just a few of the things that I love about Quince because their pieces don't scream for attention, but the second you put them on, you feel the difference. They've nailed the sweet spot of luxury quality without the luxury markup. Their $50 Mongolian cashmere sweaters are ridiculously soft, not too heavy, not too thin, not itchy. It is literally the perfect layer that I wear under a coat or on its own. The denim fits like a dream. Clean lines, flattering on everyone. These are the kind of staples that end up on repeat. It's your personal fall uniform without even trying. My favorite piece is the Italian wool coat. Oh my God. The one I have looks and feels designer, but it costs a fraction of the price. The tailoring is beautiful. The weight is perfect. And somehow I manage to look great effortlessly every time I have it on. And what makes Quince different is how they work. So they partner with ethical top-tier factories, the same ones that produce for major designer labels, and they cut out the middlemen. So you're getting exceptional craftsmanship, responsible production, and prices that are about half of what you'd normally pay for pieces of this quality. So it's refined without being fussy, elevated, but approachable. The kind of wardrobe that makes you feel like you've grown into your style and finally stop compromising between quality and cost. Find all your staples at Quince. Go to quince.com/Jillian for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. Now available in Canada too. That's QUINCE.com/Jillian to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/Jillian. Shopify is the commerce platform behind millions of businesses around the world and 10% of all e-commerce in the US. So if you're intimidated about designing a website, don't worry. Shopify's got you covered from the get-go with beautiful, ready-to-go templates to match your brand style. And if you need a hand, you can get help with everyday tasks like enhancing product images, writing product descriptions, generating discount codes. Shopify's AI tools are created for commerce. And if people haven't heard about your brand, Shopify helps you find your customers with easy-to-run email and social media campaigns. And if you get stuck, Shopify is always around to share advice with their award-winning 24/7 customer support. They have you 365-degree covered. So turn those dreams into and give them the best shot at success with Shopify. So sign up for your $1 per month trial and start selling today at shopify.com/Jillian. Just go to shopify.com/Jillian. That's shopify.com/Jillian. Wow.
But the idea was that you would be paid about what you needed. And the other thing was he created another idea of false consciousness. And he was the one that gave us that other quote, religion is the opiate of the masses, he and Engels. In other words, we really don't know what is good for us, but intellectuals are people who are informed with revolutionary doctrine will tell the peasantry and the working classes, don't be fooled by what they tell you in your church that, you're going to be rewarded in heaven and suffering is good on this earth. Don't believe the king, the monarch, the government. You have to develop a revolutionary consciousness about the chauvinism of the exploited classes. And a lot of it was influenced by Rousseau and the French philosophers who said we're naturally good people. But society, I think Rousseau said, man is born into chains. The noble savage, people in the New World were living in the state of man, what he should be. And that was very radical because the old classical idea and the Christian ideas were born sinful and we're capable of horrible things. Unless we're civilized, we have religion, and our sharper edges are rounded out by family, community. But he had this very naive, romantic idea that the government and capitalists oppress people, but if you got rid of them, then they would only take what you need. They'd be communal, and they did not have an innate desire to be recognized for their individual excellence. It was very, and he drew on a lot of people. Tocqueville, who wrote Democracy in America, had earlier in 1832 said, the United States had solved the problem that the French Revolution had not, that they were creating independent, entrepreneurial small farmers, and there was not a peasantry or serfs. And this was important because they were economically independent and therefore could vote without demanding subsidies for the poor or inside deals for the rich. And he said at one point, most people innately would all rather be poor and equal than to be all better off but have some people more powerful because of envy. And Marx then was sort of at the other pole, that no, most people should be equal. So we're going to bring the poor up, and then we're going to bring the wealthy down by mandate. So he got a bad reputation because as this didn't really catch on in the West, it did in Russia. So the efforts to get rid of the Tsardom in Russia, in World War II, put it this way, the Marxist advocates in Europe that had not been successful, the German army put Lenin on a rail car and they sent him to Russia because they were still fighting on the Eastern Front and they wanted a Bolshevik revolution, a Marxist revolution.
Okay.
And when they overthrew the Tsar, there was a constitutional republic group, there was Kerensky, the Mensheviks, but there was no idea that anybody in their right mind would actually take these crazy ideas of Marx and try to implement it. And the Bolsheviks did. And the only way that they could do it under Lenin and then, of course, Stalin, because it's contrary to nature, was to force it down people's throat. So then they created, from the Marxist idea, enemies of the people. The bourgeoisie were the great enemies. They called them the kulaks. They went in the Great Famine, the show trials, the military exit. They killed 20 million people. And then they made this, and this was, unfortunately, a lot of naive people from America and Britain went over there. George Bernard Shaw was a big champion of it. and we really didn't know what was going on. They said this was the first real Marxist example, and then the reputation after World War II, they broke all their agreements with the Allies, and then we realized for the first time we had a lot of fellow travelers in the State Department that liked Stalin, uh, Alger Hiss and stuff, and then we found out they woke up and said, my God, Mao is he's now they've spread, and there's something called the Comintern. They want to spread communism all over the world, North Korea, East Berlin, and every time they do it, they have to kill people because no one would want that. Every person innately wants to be recognized as a unique individual and rewarded according to his ability or achievement. And to the degree that people are not equal by birth or health, the government and a consensual society has an obligation to take care of them. But that does not mean that you're going to mandate. You don't bring people down, you bring people up.
All right, guys, if you like this clip and you want to watch the full episode, click here. And if you want more content like this, you can subscribe to the show by clicking here.